So, the topic is electrostatics, that is what we are looking at, and that is what we will continue with. So, the last class what we looked at was we started with the Poisson-Boltzmann equation, right. We are looking in the plane, right, of a certain charge, right, and then say this is if this is your plane, right, and then if you have a charge interaction. So, at what distance will this interaction decay, or at what distance if your ion is, would it feel what kind of charge. In that sense, so this was for us negatively charged, right, and because this was negatively charged, so at close by you would be having a huge concentration of positively charged ions. You move out of it, the concentration decays. Similarly, if you are looking at a negative charge cloud or negative charge ions, negatively charged ions, then what will happen? These one would be most depleted near the plate or the plate, and then it will start growing. Okay. So, in combination with something known as the charge density, right, and the Boltzmann equation, we looked also at something known as the what equation. This is your Poisson equation, right, where d is the dielectric constant, epsilon 0 again permittivity vacuum, and rho is the same thing, is the charge density, and charge density means number of charges per unit volume, right. So, then we went ahead to solve this. We put in this rho, right. We actually did not solve it, we just gave you the equation. We kept del square as del square. So, del square was your Laplacian, and then we introduced a simplification. The simplification was what? The simplification was for small psi of x. So, if you have small psi of x, what happens? That z times E times psi of x over q of t is much less than 1, because k t is much greater than the numerator, and hence you can use your approximation of your what expansion of e to the power x and e to the power minus x. So, on doing that what we reached, or the equation we reached, was del square psi is equal to 2 n infinity z squared E squared over d epsilon 0 k t, then I have psi again, right, psi of x, and this guy is referred to as what? Kappa squared, where kappa squared is a certain parameter, but the most important concept underlying this is what? Is it kappa or 1 by kappa, which one? So, we define something known as 1 by kappa, which is your d by length. And what we said was, if we have this d by length, at this length your ion would still feel the charge of your plate, right, or the effect of the charge or the influence of the charge. But if you go beyond this, then it diminishes drastically, it almost feels no charge. Okay. And that is why this one is also known as your screening length. This y is also known as your screening length. And as I told you last time, this is one of the most important concepts in electrostatics, especially when you consider charge interactions and you start putting in salts in between the charges, because salts come with something known as ionic strength. More salt you have, that means more charge density you have, more number of ions you have, and hence this screening would go up or down depending upon what your ionic strength is. In protein folding, this charge interaction or screening plays a huge role, and I am sure you guys have heard about this. It is called the Hofmeister series. Well, what is related to is salting in and salting out effect, and that is also related to this concept, or this is the central theme of that. Okay. So, at the end of the class we actually started solving this Poisson equation, right, or the Poisson-Boltzmann equation. This equation is also known as what? The Debye-Hückel equation, because Debye-Hückel first related these two. That means one was the Poisson equation and the other one was what? The Boltzmann equation. That is why they are in combined form called the Poisson-Boltzmann equation, right. So, last time what we started was, again we take a charged plate and we try to look at solutions of the Poisson-Boltzmann equation. Okay, that is what we had started with last class, and I kind of went through a little bit fast. So, I will essentially start with that. So, here what you have is, again think about the same charged plate, and what we are looking at is again this equation kappa squared psi, right. So, we have to solve this equation essentially. Now, this is the differential equation. I can write it as del square psi minus kappa square psi is equal to 0, and because we stick to the x dimension, that is essentially one dimension, what I can write is psi minus kappa square psi is equal to 0. This is the one we are actually solving. Now, what do you think is the solution, or are the solutions of this equation? How do we solve this differential equation? This obviously we are not going to do it, right, but what can you do to try to solve it? To try to solve it, we can do, let y, or in this case which is psi of x, to be say e to the power alpha x, right, and then what we come up with is, see this you guys should do by yourself, alpha square minus kappa square is equal to 0, and we should get alpha is equal to plus minus kappa, and because both alpha is equal to plus minus kappa would be a solution of the equation, hence what we can write is, what can we write now? What did we write last time? So, I can write psi of x, the one we are going to solve, is equal to a, right, e to the power say kappa x plus b e to the power minus kappa x. This is a solution of your psi of x. So, again the important point is you are trying to look at a solution of your electrostatic potential psi of x. Okay. Like in quantum mechanics, we start applying what? Boundary conditions. So, let us apply boundary conditions. Once we apply boundary conditions, the stuff we get is this. So, let us look at, so this is let us look at x tending to infinity, and if x is tending to infinity, that means you are going far and far away from your plate. So, then if x is tending to infinity, that means you are infinitely far or at an infinite distance along the x direction from the plate, would the charge or would the ions feel any electrostatic potential? No. So, then I can write psi x tending to infinity is equal to 0. So, based on this, what does our equation previous equation become? So, then previous equation becomes psi is equal to a e to the power kappa, then this is infinity, right, plus b e to the power minus kappa, then infinity, because this I am solving for that condition where x tends to infinity. Now, this one at x tends to infinity goes to what? 0, right, it is an exponential decaying function, right, and x is infinity. So, obviously, this is going to 0. Now, what happens this for this one? Now, this tends to infinity, right? This tends to infinity, but our boundary condition says that at x tends to infinity, this tends to what? 0. So, if this tends to 0, well, this is gone, this tends to 0 anyway, this tends to infinity. So, the only way psi can go to 0 is if a is 0. That means, so that is from this I can get a is equal to 0. So, it simplifies the solution for me now, right. If you remember what we did, what you did for particle in a 1D box, psi was equal to a sine of kx plus b cosine of kx, right, and then you applied one boundary condition where cosine did not go to 0, but the coefficient of cosine went to 0. It's the same thing we are seeing out here, right. The other point is now at x tends to 0. So, at x tends to 0, what do you mean at x tends to 0? That means you are right next to the plate, essentially you are on the plate. If on the plate, then obviously the plate has its own charge or electrostatic potential. So, here what we say is at x tends to 0, we say psi 0 tends to a potential which is psi of a, say, or I should not be say psi of a, there is a constant, I should be writing as psi a, essentially psi a. It is not psi of a, what I mean is psi a, it is a constant. This is the electrostatic potential which the charge plate gives out. So, similarly, I can write psi a, right, at x tends to 0 is equal to what? What was I left with? I was left with b, then e to the power minus kappa x tends to a, right, that means x is equal to a. So, from here what do I have? So, from here what do you have? So, I have b e to the power minus kappa a, right. So, this is for psi of a at x tends to a. So, I have what? I have b from here, right. If I know a, if I know this, I have essentially b. So, now let us combine this. This is what we are looking at. I was looking at psi of say x is equal to, again I am writing a e to the power alpha x plus b e to the power minus, not alpha, I should be writing what? This is kappa x. This one went to 0, this one went to 0. At x tending to a, this guy was equal to psi of a at x tending to a. So, what will be the final equation for me? What did we write down finally the last time? So, can I write, you know, I made one mistake, you have to tell me what is the mistake I made? Yeah, see, I made a mistake. The mistake I made was this. The mistake I made was, it was x tending to 0, right. So, I should not be putting x tending to a out here. What should I put? I should be putting 0. So, I am sorry for that mistake. If this is what b is equal to b times e to the minus kappa 0. So, this is what? This is essentially b, because this one goes to 1. So, similarly out here, this one was psi of a at x tends to a, or x tends to 0 rather. So, from here I get what? I get b is actually psi of a. I will rewrite, sorry, I will just rewrite, this was a mistake I made, but I will just correct it, and what I will rewrite it as is, then I have psi of x is equal to psi of a e to the power minus kappa x. Psi of a e to the minus kappa x, because b came out to be psi of a as x tends to 0, right. There is a small oversight from my side. So, what is the take home point of this equation? The take home point is, if psi a is the electrostatic potential of the charged plate, whatever charge it is, and if I am going to look at the electrostatic potential at a distance x from the plate, then how is the potential going to vary? The potential is going to vary exponentially as a function of x, obviously, being determined by what? Kappa, being determined by kappa. So, this guy exponential function decays as determined by kappa, the one related to the dBi length. The one related to the dBi length, right. So, this kappa is essentially what? The inverse of the dBi length, right. This kappa essentially is what? The inverse of the dBi length, and that is what you are looking at. So, it is like looking at how an energy level, if you if you remember your Boltzmann equation, do you remember when you did vibrational spectroscopy, you had Ni, that is the number of molecules in level I, is equal to N0 e to the power minus E over kT. So, as you go higher up, what happens? The number of molecules decreases depending upon the energy. The same thing happens here. As you go further out of psi of x, the potential decays depending upon kappa, right. That is essentially what you are looking at. It is very similar, but it is now you are looking at it from the point of view of an electrostatic potential. But tell me what the problem is here. Tell me why can I not apply this for proteins? So, the question is, can I apply this model for, this is for proteins, and if I cannot, then what changes should we make? What do you think? Mani? 3D, but okay. Okay. So, you are saying the charge will be uniformly distributed or not uniformly distributed in case of a protein? Not uniformly distributed. Okay. So, that is a very good point. So, the point is obviously we were considering a plane out that in that case, and here I mean in that case what we said was a one dimensional distance, but when you talk about a protein we have to go to 3 dimensions. Good. The next point that was raised was, okay, here I consider a uniform potential or uniform electrostatic potential, but in case of a protein I might be having charged hotspots. But when we are actually going to solve it, it is very hard for us to take into account the non-uniformity of the electrostatic potential. It can be. Essentially what we are going to do is we are going to assume a certain uniform electrostatic potential and then solve it. A special case might be non-uniformity in electrostatic potential. No, that can be solved too, but that is what we are not going to look at in class here, right. So, essentially we are going to look at it as a uniform either positive or negatively charged surrounding of a protein. But how is the del square going to change now? What would you do with the del squared? That means the question is del squared, what should I write it as? Should I write it as this? Or any other form, or yes, or any other form? What do you write it as? Yes, spherical. It is spherical polar coordinates. Why? Because proteins are treated as what? Are approximated as spherical particles, right? Proteins are approximated as spherical particles. If proteins are approximated as spherical particles, I better do a conversion of my del squared in spherical polar coordinates. This is something you guys have done in quantum mechanics when you started doing rotation in 3D and then you went over to the hydrogen atom, right. In the hydrogen atom you had 3 variables. What are the variables in hydrogen atom you had? So, when you are talking about a hydrogen atom in quantum mechanics, what was your wave function depending upon? Okay. That means the wave function psi hydrogen was a function of psi r, then theta, then phi. So, it had 3 variables. Now, coming back to your question, if I have to look at specific hot spots, I would have to look at this respective theta and phi, right, at at what angle orientations they are with respect to the charged particle and all these things. So, what we are going to do is, here we are only going to look at a spherically uniform charge distribution round the protein molecule, What does this mean? Think about s orbitals. Do s orbitals have any theta and phi dependence? S orbitals do not have theta and phi dependence, right, because it is spherically what? Symmetric. So, the same thing is going to happen here. That means, here the del squared would not be having any dependence upon the angular values, that is theta and phi. So, essentially what a del square now becomes is, a del square is only a function of r, it is only a function of r, where r is the distance in the radial direction. So, you can imagine one thing, right, your protein is a sphere, right, your protein is a sphere, say your protein is a sphere like this, okay, let us consider it like that, and then you are just going out towards in the radial direction. That means, your charges are spherical distributed like this, right, and this is essentially r, which is the radial distance, and this in the middle what you have is your charged protein, this is what you have in the middle. Again, no theta and phi dependence. This helps us simplify the problem a little bit. How? If I consider a spherically distributed uniform charge potential, then I can write del square is equal to, do you remember what it is? What is the full form of del square? First tell me, what is the full form of del square? 1 by r square, if you remember, del of del r, r square, del of del r, right, that was the radial part, plus 1 by r square sin theta, then del of del theta sin theta, del of del theta, sorry, this is del of del theta actually, plus 1 by r square, then sin square theta, then del 2 over del phi squared. This is your total what? Laplacian in spherical polar coordinates. So, out of these, because we are considering a uniform potential, spherical uniform, because it is spherically uniform, neglect theta and phi dependence. Neglect theta and phi dependence. So, the only guy that remains is the first one. See, we simplified a problem like that, right? It was an assumption, but we will go with the assumption, because we are not looking at the very specifics, we are trying to get a very generalized model and try to look at how this varies if you put in a protein in a solution and you put in some salts. What is the picture we are going to look at? A very simplified picture actually. You guys okay after this, right? Any problems, any issues? Please do let me know. Now, so then I can also again write this as del square psi, now I will be writing r instead of x, right, is equal to kappa square psi of r. That is what we are going to solve now, right. So, this is, I think I forgot the last number, maybe this is equation 4. So, del square, this I can write as 1 by r square del of del r, r square, then psi of r is equal to kappa square psi of r. So, I am putting the expression of del square in now, right. See, we have to know this, Possibly you are thinking it's it's a biophysical chemistry course. Why do you need to care about this? But this is what biophysical chemistry is all about, because it is a physical concept being applied to a biological problem. And this problem is not essentially biological. It's biological in the sense that we are taking a protein, but this problem is applied universal, right? If you take any charged molecule, it doesn't have to be a protein, anything else. We did it in terms of a plane, right? So this can be rewritten as, and this is for you to check. I can rewrite this. This equation as 1 by r del of del r. Okay. So actually I should write del 2 of del r squared in this case. So del 2 over del r squared r of psi is equal to kappa squared psi of r. This is 5. This is for you to check. Please check the equivalence of this expression and the equivalence of this expression. Please check the equivalence of this expression and the equivalence of this expression, right? See whether we can write it like this. That is for you to check. Okay. If you have it like that, I can again rewrite it as r psi is equal to kappa squared r psi of r. This is, say, equation 6. Tell me, do you understand why we rewrote the equation like that? Why did we rewrite the equation like that? Think about what we solved in case of the planar charges when we are talking about the psi of x in one dimension x. Do you see any similarity between the equation we solved and the equation we are solving here? What was the equation we solved? We solved del 2 psi over del x squared, right, is equal to kappa squared psi of x. What are you solving here now? You are solving del 2 psi over del r squared r psi, that means r psi of r is equal to kappa squared r psi of r. So I can put this one in brackets like this. So instead of psi of x, what are we solving? We are solving r psi of r for a simple comparison. Can everyone see it? Everyone can see it, right? So if this is the case, then as before, if this is your certain function what you are solving for, you are essentially solving for psi of r, remember, then what should it be? I can write r psi of r is equal to what? The same thing, right? I can write here, say, c e to the power kappa, right? Then what should I write? What is my x here? Okay, r psi of r. What else do we have? Plus d e to the power kappa with a minus sign r psi of r. Everyone okay with this? Good. Now if I write this, psi of r then is equal to what? C e to the power kappa r psi of r over r plus d e to the minus kappa r psi of r then over r. So this is my most general solution. This should be equation 7. My most general solution of the Poisson-Boltzmann equation or the Debye-Hückel equation in spherical coordinates. Is everybody okay with this? Please check and let me know. You didn't tell me I actually made another mistake. I am making too many mistakes, but anyway, tell me what mistake I made out there. No? What was my Okay, what was my 1D solution from before? My 1D solution was psi of x is equal to a e to the power minus kappa x, or say plus kappa x, plus b to the power minus kappa of x. Same here, what should I have here? What extra did I write there, or what extra did I by mistake put there? I should not be writing this, right? I should not be writing this c by r e to the power minus kappa r, or say this plus kappa r plus d by r e to the power minus kappa r. Should I be writing psi here? Psi is the solution, come on, right? Psi is the solution. Psi is what we are solving for. We should not be having psi out there. We are solving for r psi, which is your essential, which is essentially your x, right? But this is just psi. Psi is the solution we are looking for. So this is what your psi goes to, like e to the minus kappa r, this plus kappa r, d by r to the minus kappa r. So please correct this one. This is the correct form. Yeah, this was my second mistake today. Right? Sometimes days are full of mistakes. This is one. But please make this correction. It is like x. Here x has been changed to r. The only thing is, in this case there was no inverse of r dependence. Here I have an inverse of r dependence. That is the only change I have in this case. So then I again apply boundary conditions. If I apply boundary conditions, what will happen at r tends to infinity? What should I get? At r tends to infinity, psi of r should tend to 0. If psi of r tends to 0, then from the equation what do I have? Which one will tend to 0? C will tend to 0, right? C will tend to 0. Well, essentially c by r. Why? See, 1 by r to the minus, but please keep this in mind. The first, you look at this, the first expression e to the power kappa r over r. E to the power kappa r goes to infinity much faster than r can take you to 0, because it is an exponential growth, right? On the second term, e to the minus kappa r dies to infinity very fast. Obviously 1 by infinity is 0, does not matter. But here, at least from here, comparing with what we have for psi r, it tends to 0. What do we have? Can we write c tends to 0? I should be able to write c tends to 0 the same way we did the other time. So if that is what I write, then I can have now psi of r is equal to d by r e to the power minus kappa r. So which is, I forgot what the equation number is, say this is equation number 8. Now what is the other boundary condition? The other one was r tends to 0, but here what we will do is, we will not consider the protein as a point charge. We will say that the protein has a certain size with the radius being equal to, say, a. That is what we will treat it as. So if the radius is equal to a, if this radius is equal to a, then I can write at psi r tends to a, at psi r tends to a, I have d by a e to the minus kappa a, right. I just took it from equation number 8. See, I just put in r tends to a, that is it. I do not want to put r tends to 0. Why? Because I do not want to consider it as a point charge. I am considering it as a spherical particle which is having a certain radius a, does not matter what it is. It might be 10 angstroms, 20 angstroms, whatever it is, right, or 1 nanometer, 2 nanometer, whatever. Now the simple reason being, because you know proteins have sizes, right? The ions cannot go inside the protein. So the ions have to be at a certain distance, like surrounding the protein. So we have to take the protein as a charge, I mean with a certain distance, with a certain size. So this is the case. So this at r tends to a, what I can write as is I can write as, say, say psi of a. But please here make sure the difference between this one and that one is when we put x tends to 0, this went to what? It went to 1, right, and we could get the value of b in that case. But in this case it is not, we are not putting r tending to 0, we are putting r tending to a. So in that case what should I have? So I have psi of a is equal to d by a minus kappa a, right, from here, and that is what I have. Then I have an expression for d, which is d is equal to a psi of a, then what? E to the power kappa a. So this is what I have. So this is what my d is in terms of, obviously exponential kappa, then you have a, then you have this a here, which is the radius of the charged particle, right. Okay. Now you combine this equation, that means you had psi is equal to c times a constant plus d times a constant, right, that is what we started with. We took this to 0, we found what d was. Now tell me what is psi, write it down, what is psi? What is psi equal to now? Tell me. So psi of r is equal to, I can write a psi of a, what did I write? E to the power kappa a, that was psi of a. Then what else do we have? E to the minus kappa r, then over r. Now understand the significance of this. So this is equal to a psi of a. A is what? The radius of this protein as a sphere. Psi of a is what? The charge at distance a. Okay, so this is a psi of a. So this is essentially a constant, right? We don't worry about it. What are you going to worry about now? You look at this. So this is essentially what? E to the minus kappa. I can write it as r, then minus a over r. So this is what your psi of r is. This is what your psi of r is, right. So this would be what equation? This would be equation, say, 9. Now guys, tell me what is the major difference between this equation and the equation which we know in terms of Coulomb's law. What is the main difference? Coulomb's law also had something like what? Do you remember? It was the charge, the product of the charges over 4 pi epsilon 0 times r, right. That is the potential I am talking about, right, not the force, right. Here you also have r in the denominator, but is it the only thing you have? You also have another dependence. What is that? It is the dependence upon r minus a. What does r minus a mean? R minus a means you take this, right, obviously between 0 to a you cannot cover because then you are inside the protein. Then r minus a means how far you are moving out from the surface of the protein. And how is the charge distribution now varying? Obviously exponentially, but determined again by kappa, which is related to the d by length. Okay. Guys, please do not forget this, right. This is essentially, if anyone asks you how a charge distribution is or how the charge distribution varies with respect to a spherical particle, this is the most straightforward answer you can give. It has an exponential dependence. And remember, the exponent term comes from which part of the Poisson-Boltzmann? It comes from the Boltzmann part, and the relation with the charge density or the electrostatics rather, which is the del square psi, comes from, there is the electrostatic potential comes from the Poisson equation. We are combining these two, and that is why I am going so slow actually on this. So, this is what you need to really care about, right. Now, the question is, what about psi of A? How are we going to calculate it? We do not know what it is, right. It is easy to calculate actually, but we have to imply, we have to put in Gaussian theorem and all these things. So, we are not going to do that. Neither I am going to ask you to derive what psi of A is in class, but these derivations you should be knowing, please. These derivations you should be knowing, you can be asked in the exam. Instead, what I will tell you is this, I will just give you a number which I have, and before I go there, I just want to make a point. When I am looking at this equation, please make sure the condition is that R is always greater than A. That means at no point am I what within the protein, I am always looking at something which is at the surface of the protein. So, the maximum that R can be is equal, or the minimum R can be is equal to A and greater than A, essentially that is what it is, because if R is equal to A, essentially you can see it becomes a constant. What? This one goes to 0, that means 1, R is equal to A by A cancels out, you get psi of A, and that is what you are going to get, because psi of A is what? The electrostatic potential at the surface of the protein. So, R always has to be greater than A, otherwise it will not make sense. Okay. So, to give you an expression for psi of A, psi of A I mean, not a function of A, I will give you what the expression is. I will just the expression is goes like this, I will just write it down actually. So, psi of A, it can be shown 1 by 4 pi epsilon 0 q by d of A 1 plus kappa A. So, this is an expression for psi of A, say this is equation 10, can be derived, it is not a problem, but we will not derive it here. What is Q, guys, you think? Q is the charge, right, this is the charge on the protein, we are talking about a uniform charge now, we are talking about a uniform charge. You have to have 4 pi epsilon 0, well 4 pi is 4 pi, epsilon 0 is the permittivity, d you have to include that, right, because it is a part of the solvent, the protein is in the solvent. Now, because you are putting in salts now, before it was Q by R only, remember, Q by 4 pi epsilon 0 R or Q1 Q2 whatever, but now I have this kappa term coming in, this is because of the salts. So, you can understand if kappa is equal to 0, that means you have what? You have no salts, you have not added any salt in the solution, then what does it come to? It essentially comes to, what do you know, Q by dA or Q by dR, that is the normal Coulombic potential, we guys all know. See, then everything makes sense, right, you just have to make sure under what conditions this one is applicable, which is in case of salts, if you are adding salts, because salts have their own screening effects, and under what condition would my simple Coulombic potential be applicable, when we would not be having any intervening medium having salts in it. That is essentially how it is applicable. Okay, we are already out of time, but I will just write this final equation down for you. So, if I combine this, that means this is psi of A, right. So, well, let me combine this actually, then combining 10 with 9, combining 10 with 9, when 9 was this, psi of R is equal to this. So, what I can write is psi of R is equal to, please make sure you follow it, A, then I am putting in psi of A 1 by 4 pi epsilon 0 q by d of A 1 plus kappa A, okay, that is my psi of A, then e to the minus kappa R minus A over R. So, what simplification can I do here now? You see this A will cancel out, right. So, this is equal to then q by 4 pi epsilon 0 d 1 plus kappa A times e to the power minus kappa r minus A over r. So, look at this equation combined. You have two things. One is you have that exponential term which we discussed before, and the other one we are not looking at psi of A, it is screening, because along with the dielectric constant you also have another term. That means the dielectric constant essentially is getting multiplied by a factor which is 1 plus kappa A. So, it is not only the dielectric constant which is screening the two charges from each other, it is also the intervening salt solution which is coming in and playing its role. That means your dielectric constant is getting multiplied by a certain factor which is 1 plus kappa A. That is essentially what you are doing. It is a small change obviously in the denominator, and the other big thing is the exponential dependence upon the distance r, where r again is the psi of r, remembering that r is greater than A all the time. So, I will stop here for the day, right. This is essentially what I need to discuss with you with regards to electrostatics Paulson-Boltzmann equation. No more. Your Debye-Hückel limiting law, I will see whether we can do it, not now, but the Debye-Hückel limiting law is a straightforward derivation from here, where you bring in your, remember activities and all these things, chemical potential activities, that is why Debye-Hückel law is related to, it is a limiting law essentially. But this is where you start from. This is the starting point, and this can lead to a lot of logical expressions, logical solutions, logical assumptions that you can come across or you can come up with when you have a protein immersed in a solution with salt or without salt. This is how it is going to vary. Okay. Again, you do not have to worry about the derivation of psi of A. This is what you do not have to worry about. Okay. This can be done based on charge density and all these things, but this final expression, guys, you have to keep in mind how we came out doing it, and obviously do ignore my mistakes. I can make a mistake, I can get away with it, you cannot, right. Okay.